Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of the Daily Gwei Refuel, where we recap the latest news in the Ethereum ecosystem. I'm your host, Anthony Sassano, and today's the 23rd of December, 2023. Alright everyone, let's get into it. So apologies for missing the last 2 days of refuels. I did warn about Thursday's miss, but unfortunately yesterday I ran out of time to record one because I did a podcast with Bankless at 12:30 a.m. my time, and as you guys know, I normally record the refuel at around 11 p.m. and then by the time I uploaded, do all the work, and kind of get that all ready, I just ran out of time basically, so I was not able to do a refuel yesterday. But the podcast I did with Bankless was really, really fun. The guests that were on weren't the typical guests that I do podcasts with normally. I mean, David and Ryan were there, of course, but it was Michael Ippolito from Blockworks, I believe, and Jordi Alexander, who basically helps out the Mantle team, which is an L2 team, and does a bunch of other stuff out there. But we talked all about the Ethereum and ETH bull case, and basically it was a really interesting discussion because we talked about it from our own point of views rather than kind of all agreeing on the bull case for Ethereum and ETH. We all had our own kind of bull case for it, which was really great, and we tended to agree on a lot, which was surprising actually for all of us, I think, because I think that we all thought that each other had different views on things, and vastly different views on things. But we did have different views, but they kind of ended up coalescing around the same thesis, or the same thesis on and the same bull cases for ETH and Ethereum. But yeah, anyway, I'm not going to ramble more about that one. You can catch that episode early next year. So I think it's going to be the first episode of the year for Bankless. So yeah, you can catch that in probably a couple weeks or something like that, or maybe 10 days or something. I'm not sure exactly when they're going to be putting it live, but look for that then. This brings me to something else I wanted to talk about just before I jumped into the news. There is a bunch of stuff to get through, of course, a bunch of exciting stuff, but I needed to talk about this before I get into it. So I've decided to take a break from the refuel for all of next week. Now, I've wanted to take a break from crypto for a while now, honestly. I think I've been burnt out for a long time, if I'm being honest, and I've just been working through it. I've just been pushing through because I just enjoy doing it so much, and I feel really guilty whenever I miss a refuel episode, let alone kind of taking a break from it. I know you guys, it's part of your routine to watch the refuel, listen to the refuel, and you kind of like listening and watching it as a source of information for what's happening in the Ethereum ecosystem. But I figured, if I ever was going to take a break, it would be during the holiday period, because I doubt there's going to be much stuff happening next week, guys. Like, it's literally Christmas, and then there's that period between Christmas and New Year's, and everyone's pretty much going to be on holidays. There is still going to be stuff happening, don't get me wrong, and I'm not going to be kind of totally offline. I'll probably still be in the Discord channel a bit, on Twitter, and things like that. But I'm going to try and kind of disconnect a lot to some extent. And that includes, obviously, not doing the refuel, since that's such a big part of my day. And I want to be able to disconnect and just see how I go with that. Because I feel like if I don't do that, I'm just going to keep spiraling, and it's just going to keep getting worse and worse. This industry is insane, honestly. It's insane from a mental perspective. I mean, I have been working out a lot more over the past few months to be able to deal with that. But I think that, it helps me to feel good generally, but my mental state, given that the market's heating up again, given that there's just so much crap going on all the time, like so many narratives, so much bullshit going on all the time. You guys see this, right? It just weighs on me personally, because Ethereum is such a big part of my life. And when people start kind of spreading bullshit about Ethereum or saying things like Ethereum is dead, I try not to take it personally, but I do, because Ethereum is just so close to my heart and such a big part of my life. And I feel like, as I said, I've probably needed to take a break for quite a while now. So I decided, even though, for me, it's going to be very hard to do this, and I know that you guys, as I said, it's part of your routine. I've just decided to take all of next week off of the refuel, and try to spend as little time as possible on Twitter and Discord, and just try to disconnect from crypto altogether. Maybe try to play some video games. I used to love playing video games, but I don't do much of it anymore because crypto is basically all what takes up all of my time. But yeah, just a fair warning. I think that if we're talking about like the date that I'll probably be back, I mean, Monday's New Year's Day, right? The 1st of January. So realistically, it'll probably be the Tuesday. So it'll be a bit more than a week. It'll be all of next week, Monday to Friday, and then probably the Monday after. And then Tuesday, the 2nd of Jan, is when I imagine I'll probably be back. But fair warning as well, we'll see how we go. Like, I'm taking next week 100%. Maybe I want to take a bit more after that. I'm just kind of giving a fair warning here, but I don't think so. I think that next week should be good. Spend more time with family and friends, obviously, during the holiday period. kind of enjoy things outside of crypto for a bit, because I do suspect that 2024 is going to be an absolutely crazy year, not just from kind of a market perspective, but because the markets go crazy, so do all the developments within the industry. So does all the noise get much louder, because you're going to have a bunch of new people coming in, especially as ETH and BTC cross their all-time highs again, which I obviously think is going to happen next year. There's just going to be a massive influx. I mean, for anyone who's been around in previous bull markets, you know exactly what it's like. It's crazy. Like that's the only way to really describe it. For those of you who haven't been around in a crypto bull market before, we're not anything close to a full-blown bull market yet. We're in the very early stages still. As I said, we're in that transition period where we're basically convincing the market that it's a bull market. I think that we're exiting that transition period now, and we're going into like the first stages of the proper bull market. And I think that obviously when ETH and BTC cross all-time highs, that's when the majority of the interest comes in, and then it's just going to get nuts. And I don't know how long that will last for this time. Last time it didn't actually last very long. If you count May 2021 as the real top, not November 2021, then the craziness really only lasted about, I don't know, you could say 6 months really of the bulk of the bull market. So maybe it lasts 6 months this time, maybe it goes longer than that. Obviously there are many different reasons to be bullish on crypto, not just the ETFs, which I saw some news today about that is pretty much all but guaranteed, like 99% now that the ETFs are getting approved before Jan 10th. But there's so much more than that, guys. There's so much stuff happening, there's so much stuff happening for Ethereum, and there's so much stuff happening for other ecosystems. Yeah, it's going to be a crazy time. So yeah, just a fair warning there, no refuels at all next week. And on that note, I hope you all have a good holiday period, good Christmas. I hope you all get to have a break and disconnect a little bit. Maybe it makes it easier to disconnect because you won't be, there won't be a refuel to listen to. So you could be like, oh, well, I'll just disconnect, and Anthony will tell me all about it once he's back, because I obviously will do a longer episode when I'm back covering everything. But as I said, the news is probably going to be pretty slow. There's probably not going to be that much news coming out, but the markets might be crazy, because I think that the holiday period is usually a crazy time for the markets in either direction, so we'll have to see. But anyway, enough of me rambling about that. Let's jump into the news over the last 48 hours. And I think the biggest piece of news is that we finally have a timeline for the Dencun upgrade. So for the upgrade going from testnet to mainnet. And I've been talking about this obviously for a long time now. But Tim Biker here posted in his thread on the All Core Devs recap basically the timeline for the testnet. So you see here that Goerli will be forked on Jan 17th. Now, I did speculate that it would happen in early January, but it seems like it's happening in mid-January. But the thing is that they're actually doing the other testnets very, very quickly after Goerli. So there's going to be Goerli in Jan 17th, which will fork to Dencun, then Sepolia Jan 30th, which is 2 weeks later, but then Holsky is on Feb 7th. So if we're looking at a timeline where you want to give 4 weeks notice before mainnet, mid-March for mainnet seems very possible. So it doesn't seem like we're going to push this out to April because they're doing the testnet so fast. Like I figured they would do 2 weeks before between each testnet, but it seems like they're only doing that between Goerli and Sepolia, and then only 1 week between Sepolia and Holsky. Holsky, whatever you want to call it, and then maybe they wait a week, and then on Feb 15th or Feb 14th they announce mainnet will be like mid-March or something like that, right? Or even late March. I mean, mid to late March is my firm estimate at this point in time, and give or take a week or so sort of thing there. So we finally have a timeline there, and that obviously Dencun obviously includes the much anticipated EIP 4844, which I've already seen people talk about. It's kind of funny watching the market reaction to this, because as soon as the timeline was announced, I saw people start shilling the EIP 4844, and I saw some L2 tokens go up, like OP and ARB went up, and then obviously ETH had a little bit of a pump. And it was because, like, as I said to you guys, the narrative shifts really, really quickly, and as soon as there's a new narrative for people to focus on, they shift to it. And the new narrative now is the fact that we have an actual timeline for 4844, and it's not just something that we say, oh, it might happen here or it might happen there, right? We have an actual concrete timeline from the All Core devs themselves, so people are speculating on that. And I actually did mention this like lots of months ago. It'd have to be like 6 months ago at least, that I figured that in around Dencun, and particularly if it got pushed out to Q1, we would have like a Ethereum L2 kind of mania sort of thing, because obviously people are speculating on Dencun and EIP 4844, but also ETH has been lagging. So after the BTC ETF gets approved, maybe the narrative, well, I do think the narrative is going to straight away shift to the ETH ETF, and ETH usually performs pretty well during Q1 if you actually look at history. So just taking that all together, I think it makes for a good trade for the traders out there, and especially for like the narrative traders and investors and things like that as well. But that's the market side of things. In terms of the technical side of things, as I said, we can probably expect this mid to late March for mainnet for Dencun, which is going to be exciting because, you know, obviously the hype always gets ahead of the reality. I think that the hype for EIP 4844 has definitely gotten ahead of the reality. In reality, EIP 4844 is awesome, but it's just like laying the groundwork for future upgrades, for future scalability upgrades for these L2s. And also at the same time, the L2s themselves, or the rollups themselves, they have to change themselves to be able to take advantage of blobs, right, of EIP 4844. So not all of them will do that on day one. Maybe some of them will. I'm not sure who will. I haven't seen any announcements yet, but they have like another 3 months at least from here, or probably over 3 months to prepare for it, and they've been preparing for it already. I mean, I've talked about updates from Optimism, talking about and Arbitrum and things like that. So I suspect some of them will be ready to go as soon as EIP 4844 lands, and then of course, obviously, after that, we can tweak the blob sizes of 4844 with each network upgrade after that, and also there are things we can do. There was a post posted by Terrence called EIP 4844 Plus, which are things that the clients could do themselves in order to give more capacity here. So as I said, like the hype is going to get ahead of the reality of it, but the reality is that it lays the groundwork. It's a really awesome upgrade, and it gets us on the path towards full dank sharding, which is Ethereum's solution to data availability, basically, to making Ethereum Layer 1 a very competitive data availability chain, because that's been a main topic of discussion in the community generally as well. It's like, okay, well, if L2s can settle their data elsewhere, why wouldn't they do that? I'm like, okay, well, I mean, some of them will do that, or maybe even a lot of them will do that. But at the end of the day, there's a security trade-off there, because you're no longer having your data secured by Ethereum L1. It is now secured by some off-chain data availability layer. Yes, it's cheaper, but as I said, like, you're not getting the same level of security. And we actually talk about this on the Bankless podcast a fair bit, so I'll wait for that to come out for you guys to get my full takes on that, so I don't rehash myself here. But yeah, you can go check out Tim Byko's thread for yourself to look at all the details about what was discussed. It wasn't just the timing around Dencun. Obviously, that was a big part of it. But yeah, exciting times, guys. There, we should have Dencun live sometime in March. All right, speaking of Dencun, there's one last upgrade I think that I wanted to talk about. No, two last updates I wanted to talk about with regards to Dencun. So Parathosh has been doing shadow forks, of course, of Goerli. So he's done the first one here, Goerli Shadow Fork 1. It went live recently. It's a 300 node shadow fork, largest public one to date, with almost every client combo as they are on mainnet. And he did a thread basically recapping what it looks like and what their testing looks like. Everything looks good, like really good actually. Everything looks like it's going exactly as expected. There's no unexpected kind of data coming in. There's no unexpected bugs or anything like that. It seems like everything is running really, really well so far. And this is really promising, because if we put EIP 4844 live on mainnet, and then we basically come to the conclusion that, okay, well, we can actually increase the blob sizes from here pretty soon, because of the fact that the clients can handle this and the network can handle this, then we can do that. And, you know, with the next upgrade after Dencun Petra, if we get the max effective balance EIP in, where essentially you can collapse the number of validators down and take load off the network, we can actually do a kind of swapsies sort of thing, where we basically swap the number of validators. So we reduce the number of validators, which doesn't reduce the security of the network. It just reduces the number of validators, which is basically a redundancy now, because we abandoned the original sharding roadmap, which required a lot of validators, but right now we don't. But we basically reduce that, but then that takes load off the network, which allows us to basically increase the size of blobs and essentially put that load back on the network in some way, or kind of slowly work our way up there. But that load is being used for something much better than a redundancy, like than technical debt, so to speak, right? It's being used to offer more space and more scalability to the layer 2s that settle their data on Ethereum here. So you can go check out Parathosh's thread on the Shadow Fork. I'll link it in the YouTube description below. And there's one other thread here that I came across from Suzanne NFTs, which talks all about the Dencun upgrade, specifically EIP 4844, in plain language. So if you're still confused about what EIP 4844 is, you should definitely go check out this thread. It is a great TLDR. It's only 9 tweets, so I'll link that in the YouTube description below for you to check out. All right, so something called the PBS Foundation was launched over the past couple of days. So you see here, Eugene Leventhal shared this on Twitter and said, the mission of the PBS Foundation is to spearhead research pertaining to proposer-builder separation and provide infrastructure support for those committed to PBS. And grant applications are now open. You can learn more going to this kind of this blog post here. So they're currently in a pilot phase. You can see here that there is going to be a 6-month pilot phase where they give out grants for infrastructure efforts, research efforts, data transparency, and community education efforts here. As I said, full details in the post. But this is really cool because PBS and I guess like proposer builder separation and MEV generally, and trying to fix it, or at least like make it so that it's not as bad as it is today, and like just improve it, is an absolutely huge order. It is a tall order. It is being worked on by a lot of smart people. I would say some of the smartest people in the ecosystem, but we could always use more, right? We could always use more people involved. We could always use more people doing research, doing analysis, and that's exactly what this PBS Foundation is attempting to do. Is attempting to bring people into researching PBS and essentially giving them grants to do that. So you're not just doing it for free. You're not just doing it because it's out of the kindness of your heart. You're actually getting rewarded for doing this as well. So you can go check out this for yourself. I'll link the post in the YouTube description below for you to do so. All right, so EigenLayer is on a roll. They crossed $1 billion of TVL over the last couple of days. You can actually go check this out at app.eigenlayer.xyz. But this is huge, guys. I mean, I know EigenLayer isn't live right now, and all you're really doing is just like putting your ETH in for when EigenLayer does go live. But I remember I did the napkin math last week, and I think I came out to like $600 million, but I went back and did the napkin math properly, and it worked out to like $800 million at the time. But because the price of ETH has gone up, obviously the TVL goes up in dollar terms, and it crossed over $1 billion now, including all of their LSTs that they currently support, as well as just the normal vanilla beacon chain ETH here. And of course, people are obviously restaking because they want to farm a potential airdrop, but they also want to get involved with a new ecosystem from the ground floor, because you guys know I'm extremely bullish on restaking as a primitive generally, and it's another thing we actually talked a lot about on the Bankless podcast as well, so I won't go into too much detail here, but restaking is definitely that thing that seems, I mean, I know it's going to happen on other networks eventually, but it seems very unique to Ethereum right now, and Ethereum seems very like best positions to take advantage of it. And I think the number one reason why is because Ethereum has a very diverse node operator set, right? It doesn't just have like a bunch of big super nodes running in data centers, right? Which certain chains have out there, and people argue whether that's centralized or decentralized, and they use Nakamoto coefficient and stuff like that. I'm not going to debate that, but the reason I'm bringing it up is because Ethereum has people like myself who are, a solo staker, completely home solo staker. They have people that will stake just with the LSTs. Like they'll just buy an LST, and then those LST operators will be like businesses and things like that. There'll be centralized exchanges. There'll be like institutional grade stakers. There's just like a wide breadth of global entities that are node operators. And Ethereum by far has the most amount of solo node operators, right? In terms of solo validating, because even Bitcoin, to be a solo miner, you would have to spend a lot of money to do that, right? Because essentially to even have a chance of proposing a block, you're not going to do that with just one ASIC machine. You're going to need a lot more than that to kind of be profitable. Whereas with a solo staker, yes, you have to obviously have that 32 ETH to be a true solo staker, like doing it all on your own. Once you have that, you start earning rewards immediately. You don't have to wait to propose a block. You start earning rewards from attestations and from obviously being part of sync committees. And then obviously when you propose a block, you get rewards on top as well. And the chances of proposing a block, I think, now that there's obviously a lot more ETH stake now, but I think your chance of proposing a block approaches 100% after like 9 months, so within a 9-month on average period, and that's obviously you have to outlay the 32 ETH in order to do that. But then there are all these other ways to stake, right? There's DVT where you can split up the stake and do squad staking. There's Rocket Pool where the ETH requirement is a lot lower because it's technically a version of squad staking, because essentially you're taking in deposits from other ETH holders and you're just kind of like pulling those together, and you are the node operator, right? And there's just many different ways place to stake. So Ethereum is very uniquely positioned for restaking because it just has such an extremely diverse and geographically distributed and decentralized node operator set. And to get that is actually really difficult, guys. Like, I think people underestimate how difficult it is to get that node operator set, because the only way you're going to get solo stakers a lot of the time, like true solo stakers, is if they have some kind of ideological belief or alignment to crypto values. I believe. I don't believe that someone will choose to solo stake purely out of kind of like profit maximalism or economic incentives. I do think that if they were profit maxis, they probably wouldn't be solo staking because there is potentially more money to be made elsewhere. And I don't think they would even want to run their own node because that's an extra cost, right? It's not a big cost, but that's an extra cost. It's more overhead, stuff like that. And it's really the hobbyists, right? It's the hobbyists. It's the ones who are ideologically aligned, who are in crypto for the the cypherpunk mission and those kind of values that are the solo stakers and other people that push that and try to get more solo stakers on board. And it's not just even staking, it's also just running full nodes as well. Like, people who do that, a lot of them are I mean, a lot of them will run it because they're running a business off of it or something like that. Maybe they're an RPC provider, or they're they're an exchange that does they're a staking service provider, things like that. But there are a lot of people who run full nodes at home, on DApp nodes, on just normal kind of PCs, and I think, at least from my experience talking to a lot of these people, they're very, very ideologically aligned with the values of crypto. And I think that Ethereum is leagues ahead of every other chain in this for both running full nodes, but also for validating on the network, just because of those dynamics that I mentioned before. But anyway, congrats to EigenLayer on this. Curious to see how big this gets, especially before they go live. I mean, I think EigenDA is going to go live in Q1, hopefully, and then the rest of the ABSs will probably go live as well, or at least the initial batch, and then we'll see what that kind of looks like and what the, I guess, yield looks like for these restakers as well. Is there going to be token rewards that juice it, things like that. It's an exciting time for Ethereum in that regard. Right, now speaking of Ethereum values and narratives and ideologies and stuff like that, I came across a really, really great Twitter thread today from Polar here, who started off the Twitter thread by saying, Ethereum does have a narrative. It's just been memory hold. It is a computing platform for decentralized applications, a world computer, and it has core values that we should talk about more. These are cypherpunk ideals and open source development orientation, where we build our own alternatives to the inherited nihilistic wasteland we inherited. These principles are decentralization, permissionlessness, censorship resistance, credible neutrality, and more. And there's obviously more in this thread that you can go check out. I'll link it in the YouTube description below. But the reason I wanted to highlight this is because people always go on about the fact that, Ethereum's too complicated to understand. Ethereum has too many conflicting narratives. Ethereum is trying to be this. Ethereum is trying to be that, blah, 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 and so on and so forth. And obviously there isn't like a widely agreed upon definition of what Ethereum is, but I think that's Ethereum's superpower, to be honest. And the way I kind of view Ethereum is that Ethereum is everything, right? Like, you can do anything you want on Ethereum. And the L2 roadmap actually is the perfect example of that. Because L2s can do whatever they want. They don't have to be EVM. They can be non-EVM, right? They can play with their fee markets. They can do whatever they want with their fee market. They can have an EIP 1559 style fee market, or they can have a modified style of that, or they could do local fee markets. They could do all these sorts of things. They can have they could specialize for different applications. They can do so many different things that projects can't do on Ethereum L1, because Ethereum L1 is definitely a rigid set of rules, and that's done on purpose. But it allows the L2s to be more expressive here. So Ethereum, to me, is just everything. Ethereum doesn't need a singular narrative outside of that. You just say Ethereum is everything. It is a computing platform for decentralized applications. It is a world computer. And the term world computer got made fun of a lot during Ethereum's life cycle. So I think that's why people kind of abandoned it and tried to come up with other memes. It's kind of funny how memes change over time and narratives change over time. The ultrasound money meme, I think, landed with a lot of people when it first came out. Obviously, it was made fun of straight away because it's a play on the Bitcoin sound money meme and all that sorts of stuff. But now I think that the ultrasound money meme has probably run its course. I don't think we actually need that anymore. And funny enough, I was saying this on the Bankless podcast where I said, Ethereum people, especially Ethereum crypto natives, or Ethereum natives, I should say, I think a lot of us tend to still be stuck in like high school when we should be in college, right? We already graduated from high school to college, but for some reason our mindset is still stuck as if we're in high school. Because if you split up crypto into the primary school, high school, and college, you could say that the long tailers is still in primary school, right? They're all just trying to grow up and fight for their kind of fair share here and then move on to high school. And then the ones that go to high school, right? I feel like Ethereum was there last cycle, but since then, Ethereum has actually graduated to college, and I think the only two that are in college are Bitcoin and Ethereum. But Ethereum is still acting like it's in high school, whereas Bitcoin is acting like it's in college. It has graduated, and what I mean by this, if you want to extend the analogy out, college is the TradFi ecosystem, whereas high school is still the insider crypto ecosystem, right? So if you think about it like that, that's why I think a lot of them, those kind of memes like ultrasound money and stuff, don't really land after a while, because it just tries to go outside of the crypto or outside of the Ethereum ecosystem, and it's not something that other people resonate with. So if we are trying to refactor Ethereum narratives and trying to kind of push something new out, we have to think of it from like, okay, we've graduated out of high school, we're now alongside Bitcoin. What are we compared to Bitcoin, what do we do differently to Bitcoin? And I think the number one thing, obviously, is Ethereum is a world computer. You build applications on it, and then the L2s can build on it as well. Ethereum is a chain of chains, and you can build all different types of applications. But then you have ETH as the native asset, which I think if we're talking about narratives and kind of things that resonate with TradFi, it is a yield-bearing asset when you stake it, right? And TradFi loves yield. Like, it really does. I mean, I think that yield is the one thing that pretty much everyone understands, whether it's in TradFi or in crypto, everyone inherently understands yield. But in crypto, yield is not very attractive for a lot of people, because a lot of the crypto natives, they just want to gamble. They just want to be degens. They just want to go and play in the casinos. Whereas the people in the TradFi world, especially where all the money is concentrated right now in the kind of like, with the boomers and the older generations, they're not interested in gambling their money away. Or they want to be in something that is steadily kind of increasing their wealth, but also paying them a quote-unquote dividend, right? Or paying them a yield. Now, obviously, stocks do that for them. There's real estate. There's bonds and other kind of investments that you can use. But then we should position ETH as an investment alongside of that and say, okay, well, staked ETH has a yield, and ETH is a technology platform. It's a platform where you build applications on. And then I think that would resonate with a lot of people, because essentially people already know about applications and tech, right? I mean, the biggest companies in the world are tech companies. You have Apple's and Microsoft and Google. People know these brands. So Ethereum is a technical a platform that you can build applications on that has a monetary unit that offers you a yield. Those are the most powerful things to me about Ethereum, and those are the most powerful narratives, I think. But if we're talking about something that's more expansive than that, in terms of like just a very dead simple narrative, for me, it's just Ethereum is everything. You can do anything you want within Ethereum, especially with the layer 2 roadmap here. But you should go give Polar's tweet thread a read. It really focuses more on the ideals and the ideology behind it, because we have probably strayed from that within the Ethereum community a little bit, but at the same time, I do think that we can kind of win back the narrative, and also like narrative follows price a lot too. So I'm sure that if ETH price starts going consistently up and outperforming, everyone's going to be like, oh well, ETH is the future of France, future of finance. It's all good. We were just memeing before, guys. Ethereum's not dead, but that's inside crypto. I'm now looking outside of crypto, because if we're still trying to impress inside crypto, it's like a college kid trying to impress high school kids. It doesn't work. It's like, how do you do fellow kids? No, that's not how it works, right? We should be focused on the people, the people that we've graduated to, which is TradFi, especially because we're getting a spot ETH ETF too, right? It just all kind of falls into that. But yeah, anyway, going to leave that one at that. You can go check out Polar's thread. I'll link it in the YouTube description below for you to do so. All right, Obol Labs have announced the first Obol distributed validators with native restaking on EigenLayer have been deployed to the Goerli testnet. So you can go check out this tweet thread. I'll link it in the YouTube description below. But this is really cool to see, because Obol, has kind of just hit mainnet recently for normal staking, and now they're doing restaking basically right out of the box here, which is going to be very important, I think, because as I said before, restaking is going to be huge. People are going to want to do it. People are going to want to maximize their rewards as well, and also, if we can plug in DVT into it, where people are running DVT and then being able to run, to be able to be node operators without the full 32 ETH, is going to be really, really awesome. And I mentioned the other day about how Superfizz led a group of people that are doing it with 10 people total. So you put in 3.2 ETH each, and all of those people are node operators. All of those people are running the validator software. So that kind of stuff's obviously going to keep growing from here. But couple that with EigenLayer and make sure that restakers can join in on the fun. Well, then you've got a massive flywheel here, guys. So yeah, you can go check out this news from Obol. I'll link it in the YouTube description below for you to do so. All right, as you guys know, last week Arbitrum's sequencer had a brief outage due to inscriptions kind of hitting the network quite hard. Now, they put out a post-mortem, I think yesterday, and you can read the full post-mortem tweet thread and also the full post-mortem itself. I'll link it in the YouTube description below. The TLDR is basically this. On the morning of December 15th, the Arbitrum One batch poster, which posts transactions data to Ethereum, formed a backlog due to an issue with an Ethereum consensus client that the sequencer was relying on and the way the backlog was being monitored, leading to the batch poster not being able to keep up. The growth of the backlog was exacerbated by the high volume of inscriptions being minted at the time. So essentially just a bug in one of the consensus clients they were running. I don't know if they named which client it was, but I guess it doesn't really matter, honestly, which client it was. But yeah, that's essentially what happened. And that's what caused it to fall over. But it was brought back online pretty quickly and it's been running fine since then. But again, guys, this is not going to be an issue once multiple people can run or multiple entities can run sequences. Obviously, right now it's just Off-Chain Labs running a sequencer, so there's going to be more chances for something to go wrong because they're the only one running it. So if something goes wrong for them and it goes offline, well, no one else can run a sequencer, so no one else can process transactions using a sequencer. They have to fall back to L1, which is still a cool property, but still, you know what I mean, right? So in the future, this will definitely not be an issue, and it's a good learning experience as well. But anyway, you can go check out the postmortem for yourself. I'll link this in the YouTube description below for you to do so. All right, so speaking of, I guess, like decentralization of L2s, OP Labs posted a blog post yesterday saying, the journey towards stage 2 decentralization in the Optimism ecosystem. Our latest blog post discusses the critical path for blockchain maturity and decentralization and how Optimism can get there. So stage 2 is basically the final stage that you want to be at. So no roll-up or no layer 2 is at stage 2 right now, as you can see on L2Beat. I mean, if I go to L2Beat.com right now, I've shown these before, but just for, I guess, like brevity's sake here, I'll bring the tab over here and you can see it on my screen. We scroll down, we can see that pretty much no roll-ups except the really small ones like D-Gate V1 and Fuel V1 are at stage 2. The rest of them are stage 1 or stage 0, with the majority being stage 0. Now, the only big ones that are stage 1 right now are Arbitrum One and DYDX, but Arbitrum One obviously is the biggest by far. But, the others like the OP stack chain, ZK Sync, Linear, stuff like that, they're stage 0 right now. But the end goal is stage 2, where essentially you fill out your whole kind of rosette here with green, your whole kind of pie, I guess, with green. And then stage 2 means that there are no, training wheels, but the stages do not reflect the rollup security. It reflects the decentralization of the rollup, of course. So in this post, Optimism basically outlines how they're going to get to this. And again, the funny thing about this is that there's a bad narrative right now saying that L2s aren't actually going to decentralize, but L2s have every single incentive to decentralize, guys. Like, if they don't decentralize, they're not going to win, in my mind, because their competitors will decentralize and the competitors will have that narrative force behind them, and they'll actually be able to hit their competitors and say, hey, we're decentralized, we're at stage 2, you're still at stage 0 or stage 1, why are you there? And we're already seeing this happen, right? We already see people basically go at Optimism and say, hey, you guys aren't even at stage 1 yet because you don't even have fraud proofs yet. You're basically just a very centralized platform right now. So we already see this playing out. So if we take that to its logical conclusion, essentially, if you aren't at stage 2 as a layer 2 in a rollup, that is a liability for you. It's a liability for your growth. It's a liability for your ability to form narratives around your ecosystem. And honestly, I think that's not a coincidence that Arbitrum One being stage 1 and being the biggest L2 by TVL activity, whichever way you want to measure it, that's not a coincidence in my eyes. I do think people look at this sort of stuff and are more comfortable storing their funds on Arbitrum One because they're at stage 1 instead of stage 0. Now, of course, once we get to stage 2, that's like the holy grail. We're like, oh my god, okay, stage 2, full decentralization. I can feel safe storing my assets here, even in the worst case scenarios, because I can always fall back to L1. And that is really the pivotal kind of stuff that we're working towards. But I'm going to make the bold prediction here. I think all of the major L2s and rollups within the next couple of years are going to be at stage 2 because they, as I said, they have every incentive to be there, and I'm very confident that most of the teams have a huge amount of resources dedicated to this one goal of decentralizing, because that is critically important for the rollup centric roadmap. Because at the end of the day, if all we have is centralized L2s on top of a decentralized L1, it doesn't matter, because a decentralized L1, we're pushing users off of that. We're pushing users to the L2s. So we should hold the L2s to the same standard that we hold the L1 to in terms of decentralization. And of course, you always have the L1 fallback. That's the whole point. But I'm just really glad to see that these L2s are definitely taking this seriously and are trying to work towards stage 2. So if you want to learn more about that in the context of Optimism, you can go read their blog post for yourself. I'll link it in the YouTube description below for you to do so. All right, now speaking of L2 beats, they've upgraded their risk rosette, which is that thing I was just kind of showing before here. You can go to the risk analysis here and you can actually see the risk. So the major upgrade they've done here, they've said the exit window addresses the question, in the event of an unwanted, potentially malicious upgrade, how much time is available for users to exit before the upgrade is executed? But in some cases, the exit time is actually longer than the upgrade time. So for example, if the upgrade takes 10 days, but your exit takes 15 days or something like that, I'm just throwing out days just to illustrate my point here, then that's not good because the upgrade happens before you're able to get your funds out, right? For example. So they've updated that to reflect that here. And I mean, honestly, guys, like the fact that we even have this page, like look at this risk analysis page here. Look at the amount of work that's just gone into this in order to show us the risks of each L2 here. This has never in history been done for anything except L2s. It hasn't been done for L1s, hasn't been done for sidechains, hasn't been done for basically anything in the ecosystem over the years. The closest that has ever come to trying to, I guess, like measure things like this for L1s, Masari had something, but it is a far cry from what L2 beat has. So the fact that we even have this is a testament to the fact that people in the Ethereum ecosystem really freaking care about this stuff, like deeply enough to make this website and to keep it updated and to be very strict as well, because they have to be strict about this. They can't just play favorites. They have to make sure that everything is factually correct because people are relying on this as a trusted resource, right? So if you look at here, look at all the detail, it's just a crazy amount of detail. And obviously a lot of red right now. We want to change that to be white. We want to make sure that that's all good, but you can see here the exit windows, a lot of them have none, and then the proposer failures, for some of them you cannot withdraw once the proposer fails on most of them, but over time, we want to see all that turn white. We want to see all that be, all that decentralized, all that be a lot better than what it is today. But yeah, you can go check out this page for yourself. But as I said, they did upgrade it because they basically, as you can see here, have detailed that in this thread, which I'll link in the YouTube description below for you to check out. All right, last up here was just an announcement that the Infinex app is now live on mainnet. Infinex Perps trading blends the best of DeFi with the fast and familiar UX of Web 2, self-custodial, trustless, and transparent. Now, this is live on Base, basically, so mainnet of Base, not L1 mainnet. And the cool thing about this is it's part of the Synthetics ecosystem. Essentially, this is their app that they're trying to build to basically mirror what we have in centralized exchanges, but on-chain, where you can have like self-custodial with the UX of the user experience of Web 2 and of centralized exchanges, and trustless and transparent, and all the good stuff that we get from that. And it's been worked on for quite a while. It's basically the holy grail of what Synthetics has been working towards for many years now, and it is finally live on mainnet. So if this sounds like something that you're interested in checking out, definitely do so. I'll link it in the YouTube description below. But great to see them live on mainnet here, and I can't wait to see the growth of these things because, as I said, I think I said this the other day, that L1 is just like not the growth area anymore in terms of like consumer facing applications. L1 is the growth area for L2s essentially to settle down to, whether they're settling their data there or their proofs there, or they have their bridges on there and things like that. Whereas the L2s is where all of the experimentation happens. It's where all of the growth happens. It's where all of the users are going to sit. And then obviously, there's a long journey to get to where we want to from a decentralization perspective, from an interoperability perspective, but we're going to get there. And the apps going live will help us get there by bringing more users on chain, testing out more things, being able to basically create a more vibrant ecosystem across all of these L2s here. But yeah, I think that's it for today, and I just wanted to quickly remind you guys, in case you've forgotten, this will be the last refuel until at least the 2nd of January. Don't be surprised if I'm not back on the 2nd of January, but I feel like I should be. I mean, that's a good, 9 days from now, or something like that, or maybe 10 days or something. So it's obviously more than a week break because of the weekends and stuff like that. But as I said at the beginning, I hope you all have a good holiday period. I think that we all deserve a break, and we all need a break before the craziness of 2024 kicks in, and then you just prepare yourself. Just spend time with family and friends, because you're probably going to be in your bunker. Especially if you're trying to play the degen game, you're probably not going to get much time to do anything except being a degen if 2024 is a full-blown bull market as we think it's going to be. So yeah, just make sure to take some time for yourselves, guys. Make sure to exercise as well. Like, honestly, I can't put my weight, pun not intended, but I can't put my weight behind exercising enough. Like, it really does help. I think mentally I'd probably be in a worse position if I wasn't exercising, but it can only do so much, right? If your mental state is being affected by other things, like I know mine is being affected by the fact that I just sit at my computer on Twitter talking to people all day about crypto, just not giving my mind a chance to rest, definitely affects the mind there. So yeah, take care of your health. It's all we've really got at the end of the day. Health comes first always. And yeah, as I said, I hope you all have a great holiday period. But that's going to be it for me for today. So thank you everyone for listening and watching. Be sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. Give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the newsletter, join the Discord channel, and I'll catch you in a couple of weeks. Thanks everyone.